Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another Etheria Restart video, and today we're going to talk about team building in Etheria Restart. We're going to do essentially a 100 level team building class in this game, talking about what your first team comp in this game is going to look like for most players, and then go into what your second and third team comp team building strategy can look like, and it's going to be really similar for most people starting the game. So let's throw a graphic on the screen here that shows you what your first 4 to 5 man team comp is going to look like. I think almost everybody is going to have Leanne slotted in to most of their teams for the first few weeks of this game. She's a DPS, you need to kill people, and she just does that. So she's worth building, we get her for free, most people are going to run her, that's an easy slot 1. Then you're going to want some kind of buffing unit in your roster, and I really like Gray for this. In fact, if I bring myself back onto the screen here for a second, let me back out of this. Let me show you why Gray is an important second slot, or it doesn't matter what slot you put him in, why he's an important character to have in your squad. If we look at Gray's kit on here, right here, he will get you learning what like buffing, debuffing, and building in this game is all about. He's an interesting character. He provides useful buffs for your team, like crit rate up, and if you're playing with Leon, she really wants buffs on her. He also shows you the power of like debuffing the enemy, and because he needs to crit, like for his kit to work, for him to proc all these things he wants to proc and do all the stuff that he does, he needs to crit. So he scales really well with his own crit buff, and he'll be one of the first characters that you're really kind of focusing on, like, oh man, I do need to get this dude some like crit gear, all of that early gear that I'm getting, and there's random stats and all that. Make sure this dude could crit, because if he's critting, it's going to really help him, apply this defense down debuff, which will be very useful for some of those first bosses that you're fighting, whether you're farming, for your, oh gosh, I always want to call them summons, your shells in the game, or even in your 5-man fights, like the threshold fights, your Terramatons, all that. You want this dude critting no matter what you're fighting. Now, if we're talking about the rest of the team, let me hop back to the units here. Let's throw the graphic back up on the screen, and let's talk about the rest of that squad. You're going to have a healer early, because you're just going to, you don't have the roster yet to build a team that can maybe do it without heals, so having a healer is going to make your pushing a lot easier. Dorothy is a freebie that we get handed to us early on, and then Lingluo will be like day 7 on your account. If you're, keeping pace, you'll pick her up. So having a healer on this like basic team will help keep you alive, slot them in there. And then that 4th slot, I have OP / your selector unit. Whatever you pick, you're going to want to use them because you're going to be excited about it. If you have a DPS, a buffer, and a healer, whatever you put for that 4th pick is fine. And then there's some bosses where you're going to get, and then there's some content in the story too, there's some fights where you're going to get access to a 5th character. That 5th character can be whatever you want, but my suggestion on this, like if I was giving you a tip, if you look at like, let's again go back to the threshold bosses, Terramaton here, he's green. Right, he's that green element. So if we click challenge and we load him up, you'll see, and I have it on my graphic, but you'll also see it in your team building thing here. If you're fighting against the green, you want to bring the red. So if you're fighting against Hollow, you want to bring Reason. I forget what they're called all the time. So if your 5th character, if you have, we're talking early game right here. So make that 5th character, maybe whatever like Reason character you have, maybe a DPS that can come in here and take advantage of all this elemental advantage in this game, because it's a big deal to be the correct element for whatever you're fighting. Alternatively, Disorder and Constant, like if you're fighting bosses that are one of the 3 main elements, Odd, Reason, or Hollow, a Disorder or Constant character won't really care. So if you have one of those that you got lucky and pulled, slot them in there for your 5th pick. Maybe you have a buffer that's really OP that you want to use. Whatever you need to beat these bosses, slot them in. Now, I want to jump back to another graphic, because that's going to be like your first team, and I think most people's first teams are going to be the same. Your second team, if you want to move off of that like healer, DPS, buffer, basic thing that's really reactionary, you can make a team that controls combat a little bit more, sort of like a CC team or a control team. You're still going to have a DPS. You do still need to kill whatever you're fighting. It might not be Leon anymore. It might be a more OP character that you have, or a character that's elementally more appropriate, whatever. Then you're going to need some control unit. Now, I put Tiamat on there because I think that she's a character that a lot of people will pull. She controls by taunting enemies to herself and then providing shields for your team. That taunt is definitely a form of crowd control, but it could be somebody who stuns, somebody who puts people to sleep, any form of crowd control right there that you can reliably do to the other team to eliminate the need for a healer. And she brings some damage with Tiamat especially. Then a turn meter manipulator. Now I put Freya on there because she's our first banner unit, and I think a lot of people will use her, but she has a lot of turn meter manipulation. We'll show that off here in a second. So if you're not going to run a healer, or you're going to run very light heals and control, you need your controller going a lot, or you need your DPS getting a lot of turns. You need to manipulate the turn meter basically. So you're going to want one of them in there. Then your 4th and 5th slots continue to just be whatever OP character you want to run, and that conditional 5th. Now let's talk about Freya specifically for a second. I'll jump out of the boss fight. Could have done that while I was talking about the graphics, but amateur hour over here, I guess. So Freya, like any of your turn order manipulation units, you're gonna want to, this is where you're gonna start experimenting with like speed, more than just go fast all the time no matter what. Like, what order do you want your people to go in? And with her, like with Freya, if we look at what she does, she's going to provide buffs to your group. She's going to provide like debuffs to the enemy, and many of these characters will provide debuffs to the enemy, like when you hit them will provide you some healing and things like that. But most importantly for Freya, you're going to get like Dream Guide. So each time an ally gains a buff, increase their turn meter by 4%. So your allies getting more turns. Freya can do that right here. And each time an enemy is afflicted with a debuff, reduce their turn meter by 4%. She's a really good example of this because she does both kinds of manipulation. Give your people more turns, give their people less turns. That's a good thing. It can only trigger up to 3 times per turn. That's still a lot. And it's doubled. The Dream Guide effect is doubled when Freya gains a buff or is inflicted with a debuff. Insanely good kit for that. Another one of the new characters that we're getting, Tsukiyomi. Yeah, names. Y'all know me. Another character that can manipulate turn order a little bit. So 2 of the characters that they just announced coming into this game are 2 of the characters that like would fit this kind of second team comp build. And if you wanted to use these characters early, hey, you have that like 5th conditional slot, or that OP slot. Even in that beginning team, run DPS, healer, and buffer. You could put whatever else you want in there, so you could start experimenting with these kind of characters early. So anyway, those are the 2 types of team builds that I think most people will be running to start this game. You go from that like Leon, what are the names of that one? I'll throw the graphic back up. Leon, Gray, and Dorothy team with kind of whatever else you have. And then you move to more of like maybe a control-based team where you can work in a little bit more damage, give yourself some more turns, and like turn manipulation, speed manipulation. Wow, that word all of a sudden became hard to say. Manipulation. I'm a teacher. That's awkward. Anyhow, turn manipulation and speed timing, get your speeds down. That's advanced right there. So start learning that as soon as you can. Those are characters that can help you do that. And I'll have like comprehensive character guides that'll come out at some point. My Discord also just got its roles for Etheria Restart added. So if you want to join my Discord and talk a little Etheria Restart, happy to do that with you there. Thank y'all for watching. Please click subscribe if you want more Etheria Restart content from my channel, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.